Rebecca Lavoie. Right here with me is Kevin Flynn. We've got Laura Bricker. I mean, I guess it would be like that way or that way. I
Uh-huh.
don't know. And then Toby Ball. I don't know. I don't know what direct. Are we
I
like the
think.
Brady Bunch?
Well, I mean, it's different. Depends on everybody's screen,
Like
right? So
Hollywood Squares.
it goes. It's supposed to go Rebecca, Kevin, Lara, and Toby,
Okay.
or whichever way around
Or like a
that
stack.
goes. Yeah, exactly,
All right.
exactly.
Well, what we're about to do is record an episode of Crime Writers On, and we're going to do it in front of you, which means it might not be perfect. We might make a flub or a mistake. And that just sometimes happens when you make a podcast, and it's going to be edited later by Kevin, who's going to edit it
Mhm.
tonight to come out in the morning. So you are all, everybody who's watching, going to be part of our episode. So I would say we don't really have like a lot of audience stuff built into the script, but if you have a strong comment about the podcast and you want to make it, please feel free to put it in the chat because it might help us with our conversation.
Mhm.
We're going to be playing clips. We're going to be playing music. It's going to be just like listening to the podcast, sort of.
Yeah, and I'll
Sort
remind
of.
folks here that we've got a lot already joining us in Riverside. More will be joining us, I believe, on Facebook and YouTube. There's going to be a delay for them, so I don't know. That doesn't matter. You don't care about that. But what will happen, patrons, is that we're going to have our after show. But what will happen is we will end this live stream. Don't go anywhere. We're going to end the live stream, and I'll adjust so that it doesn't go elsewhere. And then we will resume the live stream, and you can stick around for our after show. And this time, we're just going to talk more about Only Murders. Next week's after show, we're going to talk about Halloween.
Ooh, we're also going to take
Halloween.
your comments and questions in the after show too. Kevin, can you be prepared to put Chris's comment on the screen at the beginning of the show so we can address it?
Well, which one? Is it more stress?
Yes,
This
that
one?
one. That
So
one.
it goes like this.
Yes.
This is from Chris Denton, the guy with all the bees.
Yes.
More
Oh,
stressful
yeah.
or less stressful recording live?
I was going to say, can
Yeah,
you
we
put
can
it on
figure
during
that
the
out.
show?
Well, during the actual
During the
show,
chat part.
during the chat part of the
Oh,
show.
okay.
I mean, we could, sure.
All right.
If we, I mean, I don't know if we want to. Do we want to? I
Yes.
mean, that's a good. Do we want to answer that question?
I want it.
You want to
guys?
answer? I don't know
Of
if I want
course.
to answer that question.
That's a good chat question.
That is a
Yep.
good chat question. Yes.
Okay, so for everyone a little behind the scenes, our podcast, if you've listened for a long time, you know it's in segments. We have the crime of the week, we've got the cat of the week, we've got our business section, and I refer to the beginning of the show as the Regis and Kathy Lee section. Chat. So that's what we usually do, and sometimes we don't do any of it if we're tired or if we have nothing to talk about. Sometimes it goes on forever.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's my favorite part of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
I thought that was crime of the week.
shut up, Toby. You actually listen to the podcast.
Oh, shit.
I
Do we have a
listened to
crime
it
of the
when we
week?
recorded.
Oh, no. I didn't even look
No, we
to
don't
see
have
what
crime
it
of the
was.
week.
No,
We have
we don't
cat
have
of the
one.
week.
We have cat of the
Yeah.
week. I knew about
Yeah,
that.
this
But
is for tomorrow's show. Yeah, no,
okay,
no.
thank God. Okay.
All right.
Whew.
No,
Fine.
no. All right, let me get a couple of things here ready. Let's get my stopwatch
Yeah,
I'm
out.
gonna get
so
my
when to do the business section.
liquid IV in my
Yeah.
Exeter mug.
Stop seeing like that. Beep, reset. Okay.
I've got my National Parks water bottle that I got in Montana.
Mm.
All right.
I just got a
Good.
kitten
Oh, you know what I gotta
sitting
do
on
is
the
I gotta take
couch.
off
Mm.
my shoes there, be grounded, so no static electricity. Okay, guys, I think if you guys are ready, then we can be ready.
I'm ready.
Let's
Are
do
you
it.
ready? All right, get ready to start
Get
the
your
show.
timer started.
Oh yeah, shit.
It's on a
No,
world clock.
I don't want that stopwatch.
I don't even know what time
Oh,
it is in
hey,
Tokyo.
Rocky Flintstone.
Laura, we're about to do a podcast.
I'm sorry, the cat was coming in.
Oh
I know.
Jesus H Christ! All right, more
Focus.
stressful. Yeah, focus.
Focus.
Yeah. Okay, Rebecca, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Laura and Toby, are you guys ready?
I think so. Rocky Flintstone's ready too. He's going to make a surprise appearance.
Fantastic.
Okay.
I
I
was
think
ready
Kevin loves
until
more
I
than
heard that
cats.
Yeah.
Mars cat was ready.
Okay, ready?
Yes.
Go.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is Crime Writers On. Crime Writers On is the original true crime review podcast that digs into true crime, pop culture, other podcasts. And on this episode, Hollywood wants to make a movie about podcasting's favorite true crime trio. But is the film shoot somehow tied to the murder of a stunt double? Charles, Oliver, and Mabel are back in season 4 of Only Murders in the Building. Joining me to get that done and more is true crime author, TV journalist, and host of These Are Their Stories podcast, my husband and love of my life, Kevin Flynn. Hi, Kevin.
Hello, Rebecca.
Also with us is private investigator, certified pet detective, resident cat lady, and author of the Piper Green series of cozy mysteries, Laura Bricker. Hi, Laura.
Hey, Rebecca, and the cats might be here too, so stay tuned.
Wonderful. And finally, our resident doubting Thomas, the author of a city trilogy of novels, host of Rip Current, Strange Arrivals, and our Patreon Deep Dive Book Club podcast host, Toby Ball. Hello, Toby.
Hello, Rebecca.
So, Laura, one question.
Right,
We're doing this obviously on video in front of
right,
people right
right.
now, and it's very exciting to do a live version of the show. But did you or did you not like spy on me when I was getting dressed just now so that we could be wearing the same thing? Yes or no?
Rebecca, I'm a private investigator. I know everything that happens in the town that you live in
Yes.
your house.
All right.
But,
Good.
you know,
That's good to keep in mind.
just keep in mind, I sometimes I see things I can't unsee.
Ah,
Kevin. No, I'm just
What?
I think she's referring to our sex, Kevin.
Oh my goodness gracious! I
No.
thought
I
thought
thought
this
it was Kevin taking out the recycling in his underwear. I don't know.
Kevin sitting on that can playing Candy Crush.
What the hell?
She said she can
What?
see it into our house. Were you
Oh,
listening?
all the time?
All the time.
Oh, all right. Again, I
Yeah.
thought this was a reference to the Exeter Lit Fest.
Oh no. No. We had
I thought like I was the worst until that whole thing happened at Madison Square Garden, and I realized,
yeah.
you know,
You're
there are
all
other
set.
people who,
So
yes,
much
yeah,
worse.
so much worse.
We actually have a question in the chat right now. Do you want to listen? You want to get that listener question going for us?
Yeah, let's see. This was from Chris Dutton.
Did Toby get introduced?
Oh, we didn't get introduced to Toby yet.
I did.
Yeah, you did.
You
Oh,
did?
you did? Okay.
Oh
we,
my gosh.
we have not been paying attention.
People
Was it
are not
memorable?
paying attention.
There's just like a lot happening right now, so it's like, you know, rubber baby buggy bumpers.
Yeah, it was right there.
It was right. Okay. Show on the screen. Here we go.
All right. Is it more or less stressful recording live? Chris would like to know. I don't know. Toby, what do you think? More stressful or less stressful?
I don't really think it's one way or the other.
Oh, that's
I
a very
mean, it's
Toby way
just-
to answer that question.
Sorry. I wish I had more. I think it's more fun. Like,
Yeah.
it's, I mean, it is sort of like an event for us too.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
just not
Yeah.
the normal stuff.
What about you, Laura? More or less stressed out by this experience?
I think a little bit more, but I think it's good because it forced me to like get all of my tech in the proper setup and come into this corner of my kitchen where I have like my only murders sort of like kind of little village thing behind me. So I had the appropriate backdrop. So I think now it's less stressful, but the setup was a little more stressful, but I feel good about it.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I'm only stressed about one thing when we do this kind of thing.
What's that?
Kevin, you put so much work into this. Like,
Mhm.
you mix the music in advance, you get the clips ready, you do everything. Like, you're going to see graphics with little like lens flares and shit. Like, Kevin did all of that. And I just worry about disappointing you. Like, I'm going to mess it up in some way. And you're going to be like, damn it.
You mean like when I start playing the thing, you immediately start talking?
Yes.
Like going, oh, did you make all this stuff? It's like, God damn it.
I thought it wasn't going in the mix. So, you know.
You're not, no, that you're solving for problems that are not yours to solve.
See, this is why I get more stressed.
This
Like, I worry about stressing him out and making you
Yeah,
unhappy.
Don't worry. I'm going to I know what's supposed to be where.
Okay.
I know what's
Okay.
supposed to be in the mix and what isn't. And that's what,
Mhm.
and I don't think we've explained it all to the audience,
Yes.
the podcast audience, what we're doing. We're just
What are
doing
we doing?
we're doing a live stream so people can watch us argue with one another
Yes.
about whether or not the music bed is in the right mix or if we've busted to a whole other live stream platform that will not be in the mix minus.
Oh, okay. They think people don't understand what any of that stuff means.
I know.
Mix
You
minus.
just- all I did was all I told you was just read the script.
Okay.
Just pre-read the script.
I
Leave
did.
everything else to me.
I pre-read the script.
Okay.
And there's no crime in the
Focus
week,
on that.
so I won't even mess that up.
You cannot mess that up, apparently.
I very often, audience, don't read the crime in the week in advance. Only because Kevin once told me it's funnier when I don't.
Mhm.
But then Kevin sometimes like, do you read the script before we do this? I'm like, I don't know which to do. Both seem like good solutions to me
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah.
One quick question for everybody. I just want to make sure everybody has a plan. You don't have to share. Does everyone have a plan of where they're going to hunker down on and after election day? Like their self-care plan in place. Laura, do you have your self-care plan in place?
I don't know. Do you think I should like hit the jail for work? I don't know. I
Sure.
mean, I have been recently sort of feng shuiing my condo, so I
Yeah.
might just hang out here.
Yeah.
and hang out with the cats and set up shop and maybe get the wood stove going. Yeah.
Toby, do you have a self-care plan?
As long as they don't cancel the NBA, I think I'm going to be okay.
All right. Well, I unfortunately said yes to doing an event the day after Election Day. And if anyone's interested, I'll be interviewing author Ariel Lahan at the Music Hall in Portsmouth on Wednesday, January 6th. Sorry, Wednesday, November 6th,
Oh boy.
which is like not ideal for someone who really just wants to stay home and stock up on weapons and all that stuff that we have to do. All right, so Kevin, what do we have coming up on future editions of Crime Writers On?
Yeah, on Monday's show, we're going to be talking about the Netflix film Woman of the Hour.
Oof.
And then later in the week, on Thursday, we'll be talking about the podcast Kill List.
All right. Spoiler alert, I was so scared during Woman of the Hour that I hid under a blanket the entire time we watched it.
Spoiler alert, I hated Kill List. Moving on.
Really?
And thus ends
This is
another
very interesting.
edition.
This is going to be a good taping tomorrow.
Oh, all right.
So Toby, this is the day that Rip Current drops, right?
Yes.
What's happening on this week's episode?
The time space continuum is all
you're
off
like
for all
totally
of us, so,
throwing me off. I'm like, no, that's tomorrow. But I see what you're saying. Give me 2 seconds. I just have to. There's a subscription thing.
You can just.
Okay. So this is it's getting kind of intense. Sarah Jane Moore accuses her mentor in the radical underground scene of being a snitch for the police, when in fact she's the one who's actually the snitch. And it has major consequences for both of them. And this is sort of the time at which she starts to realize that she's probably not safe.
All right. I'm looking forward to hearing that. And how's your series doing? You feeling good with? You feeling good about it? I'm getting lots of positive vibes about it online.
Yeah. No, I think I've gotten the feedback's been almost all positive. There was some guy who didn't like somebody's take about the realignment of Republicans and Democrats after Watergate or something, so gave it a 1 star. But that stuff happens. Yeah, I think it turned out the way I wanted it to. I think the people who've listened have I think gotten a lot out of it, and it's certainly sort of given me positive feedback, and we're still coming up to the most exciting parts of it. So
all right,
I think people will enjoy it.
I love the reviews that are just like things that are just like people don't like things that are true. I oversee a podcast about civics that happens all the time,
Right.
but also sometimes people leave reviews that are just like, my book didn't arrive on time.
Exactly.
1 star.
Exactly.
All right, so Kevin, we have a very important thing to discuss on this episode. Should we get to it?
I would like to do that.
All right, I think we
let's
should
do
drop
it.
that first clip right now. Leading off.
By the way, I see.
So what's next podcast-wise? Charles, you mentioned a cold case?
Oh, please. If it was interesting, it wouldn't be cool. No, what we need is a hot, fresh, dead body, preferably right here or very near to here.
It's true. We've been very lucky with people dying in our building.
Yeah, but it is kind of a flaw in our business model.
A Hollywood studio courts Charles, Oliver, and Mabel to make a star-studded movie based on their hit podcast. But Charles is shaken by another murder in the building. His longtime stunt double, Saz, was killed in his apartment by a sniper, and her body burned in the incinerator.
What do I do? I can't wash her down the drain. Duh.
Maybe we could get a wipe.
Yes, a nice, respectful wipe.
Saz can't end up on a wipe.
Well, you could just leave them like that. Then you'd have permanent Saz hands. I'd like to take that one back.
Before she died, Saz had been poking into something about the first season of the podcast. The fatal shot came from the west side of the Arconia, occupied by an odd collection of residents with a secret to hide. Writers, directors, executives, and stuntmen also make up the suspect list. Now the podcasters are on a new case. What bombshell did Saz uncover, and who was willing to kill to keep it quiet?
I don't know if Saz was the target.
Well, be honest. Do you think someone over there could hate me enough to try and kill me?
Don't make her answer that.
Look, if this is the part where you tell us not to investigate, you're wasting your time.
Yeah, I know. After 3 seasons, I got that.
So that means it's season 4 of Only Murders in the Building, starring Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez. This time, the Emmy Award winning series deconstructs the murder mystery through the lens of film. The movie forces Mabel to ponder how the world views her and leads Oliver to re examine his relationship with Loretta. Meanwhile, Charles is racked with guilt that his old friend may have died because of him. As usual, Only Murders delivers sly humor, a touch of pathos, and crackling performances by the leads and many guest stars. Spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about very significant plot points from season 4 of Only Murders in the Building. So if you want to remain spoiler free, go to the estimated time code in our show notes for our thumbs up or thumbs down reviews. So, Laura, when the Arconia opens up for a new season of this show, I kind of feel like I'm coming home a little bit. What about
Yes.
you?
Absolutely. I think the Arconia is really like a character in this, in the way that it feels like here we are with all of our quirky little neighbors and characters, and the bellman and the cranky lady in the elevator. And, we've got our trio who we've come to get to know, and just sort of the general scenery and the feel. So I think this season, when we find out, at the end of last season, that there's going to be like a Hollywood angle, I was like, uh-oh, are we not going to be in the Arconia? But
Mm.
we are. So I'm glad for that. But it's just it's like the perfect complement of cozy with a little bit of dark humor, a lot more, and just a lot of really fun, quirky characters and pets.
So, Toby, we don't often review multi seasons of things unless like there's a reason, unless we like really feel strongly about it. Things like In the Dark, for instance, make that cut, and so does this show. But I mean, how do you feel about that? I mean, we're not reviewing something different each and every time.
Well, I think it's harder with this one than it is with some of the others, like Ozark, for instance, where there's so much change between the different seasons that um, it just feels like you're talking about a new show each time in some ways, even though some of the characters carry over. Uh, Whereas with this, and this isn't really to say, this is more sort of saying that it's tough to keep reviewing it rather than there's anything wrong with the actual show, because there is a certain sameness to all the seasons, right? I mean, and it's good, and I think you guys are kind of alluding to the fact that it's nice to come back to this setting, these characters who I mean, I think it's kind of remarkable that while the actual sort of tone of the show doesn't change that much, you still are sort of want to find out what's going on with the characters. Characters are still compelling. They grow in these ways that are sort of a little more subtle than you get on most like multi-season shows. Um, but it does make, at least for me, when I was like writing down to do my notes, I started doing notes. I was like, oh, I could have said that about the second and third seasons too. Oh, I could have said that about all the seasons too. So I guess in the end, it comes down to like these little details, or just sort of repeating how you kind of like the feel, you like the setting, you like the characters and all that stuff. But to be quite honest, like I don't know how other people kind of watch this, but actually like following the clues and like trying to figure out who did it and stuff, like that almost like that pays almost I don't pay any attention to that stuff hardly at all.
Me
Like
neither.
I just, it's just about like sort of hanging out with these people who you've come to enjoy. But I don't know, I for me it's a little bit harder to figure out how to find something sort of interesting to say in this fourth season that hadn't already been out there to say in the first three.
Kevin, Kevin, how much do you feel similarly or differently than Toby? Because the thing that they do differently every season, and they did it this season, is a new angle, right?
Mm-hmm.
First season was about making a podcast. Last season was about a play, and this season they've gone in for this film angle. So, do you think that works?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I mean, I think if the point that you guys are making is that this is really about the three characters, and I mean, that's who we love, because I certainly do, and I would love to talk about the way those characters have grown in those performances. But I do like that, um, you know, it remains like very entertaining for me. I would love to have more sort of the insidery, self-aware podcasting sequences, but the show is really about murders and it's not about podcasting. So one of the I think the smart ways to keep it fresh is to continue to, be all about the murder mystery and find new ways of doing it. It isn't like say, oh, we're no longer doing a podcast. That's an important framing device. But like what they did with Broadway, and while there are things that are probably and in the movies this time, and it looks like we're getting set up for some very kind of um, film noir, femme fatale kind of mystery for season 5. I like that, the team keeps tackling the idea about a murder mystery in these different ways that we come to consume them. And so I like, it's not so much like whether or not the thing that you pick is the right thing. It's about whether you can execute it. And I think they continue to execute it well. And that's why I enjoyed this season.
Well, talk a little bit about the performances because you talked about just now how they have grown into these
Mhm.
roles.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, these you talk about like these 3 lead actors, right? Um, they are big personalities, right? But they really do disappear into these characters, right? There are just very little moments that sort of remind you about who these actors are where they step out. Like I was in the last episode when they're on the edge of the building and Martin Short's meringue where he does this, it's like, oh, that reminds me of Ed Grimley,
Yeah.
right? He's got a little bit of that. And there's a scene where Steve Martin is, I should say Charles is trying to like suppress his rage, and it's very physical, and it reminded me very much of like Steve Martin's early work, right? Where it's a lot of slapstick and a very physical comedy. If you think about All of Me or The Jerk, you're like, this is the same guy, right? And but you never, it's not like Ice-T and SVU where you're always watching, well, here comes Ice-T, right? To me,
Ice-T as Finn playing Ice-T.
yeah, it just they really have become these characters. And like, I mean, just my last thing here on this subject, when the evil Longoria character, when Eva Longoria delivers the line as Mabel at the very end when they're shooting, and it's the same line that Selena Gomez gave in like season 1. It's like it wasn't even close. Like it wasn't funny at all. It was a tiny bit funny, but it was nothing like Selena Gomez the way that she hit that.
Yeah.
The way that she plays off of the two of them and like her sarcasm and her embarrassment by them. Like she just really nails that. And when someone else just tries to read that, it's like, no, what the 3 of you got is pretty unique, and that's why that's why you keep getting all these Emmy nominations and why people keep tuning in.
Fun fact, Selena Gomez is a billionaire now. That came out during there's so many extra textual things about the season that happened. Selena Gomez became a billionaire because she has this very successful makeup line. Martin Short and Meryl Streep are a couple now
In real life. Yes.
Are they really though? There's
Yes.
different. Okay, I see
Yes.
differing reports that they're just close friends.
No, they're a couple. And actually, the creator of the show came out and did an interview and said that it was very unexpected that the two of them would fall in love on set. Steve Martin has commented about their relationship. Yeah, they're a couple now in real life. It's adorable.
Okay.
And of course, like viral videos keep going around of this cast. Like the one that went around last week was Steve Martin tap dancing with Gregory Hines in this like old clip, like I guess from the 80s or whatever. And he's incredible. Like Steve Martin can literally do everything.
It's like he can tap dance, and then he tap dances so hard, and then he sings
Yes.
without losing his breath.
Yes.
I mean, I think that's maybe why when you see him, like, do you know that he's 79 and he looks like 20 years younger than that?
Like, how
It's like
said he always looked a
it
little
must
older.
be.
He
Well,
looks
true.
he never
He
ages.
can be so
He looks-
flexible. Yes,
just-
right.
He looks like the same age no matter what I see him in.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
incredible. It's really incredible. So the characters do some quirky things in this season. I think really takes advantage of their brand of humor. One of the things that Oliver does, Laura, is he stalks Loretta when she's in Hollywood, and because he doesn't know where she is, and he thinks maybe she has a different relationship. There's this whole
Yes.
sequence where Mabel teaches him like he misuses her teaching as one of the Youngs by stalking her on Instagram. What do
Yeah.
you think about that?
I was like, we have all been Oliver. We have all been Oliver. Some of us get paid for it, but it was the part where he was like talking. It was just very relatable. And he was like looking at the photos and analyzing them. Like, this arm has been in 11 of the last 14 photos. Like, whose arm is this? And it was just, and then he sets up like the fake profile to try to interact with her or whatever. And he's like, she has responded to 2 of the fake profile comments. And
His
so,
Insta.
and I'm like, this is just something, I mean, it's just very relatable, but it also is very sweet because I think that character, like somebody had just noticed in our comments, like that character has really become a lot deeper than the first season where he was just stealing all the dips from everything. And this season I was like, okay, he's still eating dips, but there's a lot more depth there. And I think that whole relationship with Loretta, and then when she like shows up at the sister's place in Long Island, and then like different times that she
We'll talk
shows
about
up.
that.
Yeah, we got to talk about that. It just, but that part was just cracking me up because I'm like, oh my God, who hasn't? Well, maybe Toby, but who else hasn't stalked somebody on social media like that?
Toby 100% has not done that. I guarantee it. I guarantee when Toby said in the show a few weeks ago that he was on TikTok now, I almost fell off my damn stool. Like I
Me
guarantee
too. Me
that he has
too.
not stalked anyone on social media. Toby,
Did you know how to do like the accents over the vowels?
I didn't know how to
Like,
do that.
you
I
didn't
know
do
how to do
that?
that.
Everybody needs a Mabel in their
Yeah,
life.
I know how to do that because
Yeah.
I work with someone with an
Yeah.
umlaut, and
I
she taught
copy
me
and
that.
paste a lot when I have to do that.
Me too.
So Toby, there are some pretty astonishing guest performers this season. Of course, Paul Rudd is back. Meryl Streep, Queen of Acting, is back. And then we have some other guests: Eva Longoria, Zach Galifianakis, of course,
Gene
what's his face?
Levy.
Gene
Levy.
Levy, of course. So, what do you think of all these amazing guest stars? Of course, Melissa McCarthy as well. What do you think of all these guest stars that we have this season?
So, first, sort of like not actually what they're doing on the screen. Like I always kind of feel like this must be like a really like nice set to be on. And so whenever I see people on it, I like kind of put them in my those must be nice people category because
Exactly.
otherwise they wouldn't be asked to be on it.
Mhm.
So that was yeah. I think Eva Longoria in particular just seems like she's having a really good time. Like sort of like chewing the scenery, as we say. So she was really fun. I was kind of like wishing that Zach Galifianakis had a little bit more to do. He was definitely there and he had his moments, but it would have been, I think that he and Martin Short could have played off each other maybe a little bit more, but whatever. Um, but I mean, I think that's one of the things about this show is that these bit parts all get picked up by these amazing actors, right? So it's just like, it, it's just sort of an embarrassment of riches. Melissa McCarthy is almost unrecognizable.
Yeah.
As
I didn't even know who she was at first. And I was like,
Steve
is
Martin's,
that her?
yeah, as Steve Martin's sister. Um, so again, I mean, I think that I mean that's part of the charm of the show, right? Is that you get to see these big name. I mean, Sting was in the first. I mean, it's just
Yes.
like this random assemblage of people, but
Scott
they all
Bakula.
seem like really good sports for the show and seem to be enjoying themselves. And and I think that's one of the that's one of the reasons why I like watching the show is that it does seem like it's a bunch of talented, creative people who enjoy each other's company, making something together that they're all happy to be kind of doing.
Yeah.
And then who's the woman who plays the Saturday Night Live woman who plays
Molly
the
Shannon.
executive? Yeah,
she was
she's
awesome.
hilarious.
Mellon.
She's really, really good in this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that was one of the really nice things. And then I guess we'll probably talk. Are we going to talk more about the character development? Because I thought there was some other stuff that was kind
Absolutely.
of interesting there.
Yeah. Yeah, we could talk about that. Kevin, but I just want to ask a quick follow up. Toby described it as an embarrassment of riches, all these bit players. And I think, Melissa McCarthy is always like phenomenal. And I agree with Toby that I do think of people differently when I see them on the show. Eva Longoria in particular, I always like, you see her like doing like political stuff. You see her doing like cause stuff.
Makeup.
She always seems very icy, like in a way, like, a little bit like, that Desperate Housewives kind of distance, right? She's freaking great in this. So do you think this is an embarrassment of riches?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Speaking of riches, you should join us on Patreon. I mean, I'm not embarrassed. I'm not rich, but
speaking of our riches.
Yeah. So what do we got going on? Oh, well, if you join us on Patreon, Rebecca, stop doing that.
Okay.
Stop like trying to
I'm trying
be
to
a
make the music
producer.
a little lower is all.
But it's not in the mix.
I know,
You
but they
just
can
have
hear
to
it.
let it go.
Ugh.
You must let it go, okay?
Okay.
This is why you want to watch the live stream.
This is
because you
all
wanna
being
see-
exposed to the people.
all being
I was
exposed.
just doing a little finger thing
Yeah,
at the
what?
bottom.
Do that again. Do that again. Stop it. All right. The train has left.
I love you,
Like you
Kevin.
really have to let go.
Oh,
Okay.
Toby's
Thank
gone.
you so much.
Toby's checked out. Toby
Toby's
can't take it.
That he left.
We lost
This
Toby.
music has tipped him over the edge because it's the first time he's ever heard it.
What
Oh,
is
he's
this
back.
music? There he is.
Thought I was in the wrong place for a second.
Oh my God. The wheels are coming off. Okay.
Business section.
Business section. So if you join us on Patreon, you go to patreon.com/partners in crime media. You can get all sorts of things there that support us and keep us going. If you join us at the leading off level, you're going to get to hear the Crime Writers on after show. Also, if you're a patron, like you are watching not only this stream, but you'll also get to see the live stream of us talking about the after show. We're going to continue our discussion more about only murders in the building. So what we don't get to in the actual regular podcast, we will get to in the after show. But you also get other great stuff. You get Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcast. You get our Married with Podcast advice show, and you get the Karen.
We're so
Reed-
qualified to give advice to married people.
Oh yeah. Would you just knock it off? You just let me do my goddamn job. And we get Rebecca's Karen
Oh yeah.
Reed Readathon.
And there's one coming out, like it ASAP about the 2-part Vanity Fair story
Mhm.
that came out about Karen Reed. The first good reporting I have read on this whole damn thing. I'm so excited about it.
If you join us at the Bricker scale level, you get an exclusive podcast there. It's Laura Bricker's Leave It to Bricker podcast. Laura has an experience in this latest episode dealing with a very sexy B&B, Airbnb,
Ooh.
that is a Bigfoot theme.
Yeah, the sexy Sasquatch Airbnb with the sexy Sasquatch over the bed. It was bolted to the wall, so you couldn't steal it. But
What?
if
What
anyone
was the
wants to,
bathroom like in this place?
it was the bathroom that is covered in the podcast was an outhouse, but it had
Mhm.
Bigfoot facts on the wall of the outhouse.
Oh.
There's a
So
lot
while you were
happening.
pooping in a hole in the ground, you could read Bigfoot facts.
Yep, you could, but they had
Amazing.
motion activated lights in there in that house. It
No,
was very
you couldn't get me to stay there in a million fucking years. If I'm away from my bidet, I get upset.
Mm.
No way.
well.
I'm
I
out.
did it, and you
You
can
did
live
it.
vicariously through me if you join us at the Brichter scale level.
Oh wow. If you join us at the Let's Do What We Do level, you can get episodes of Crime Writers on early and ad free. And if you become a deep diver, you can watch another live stream, and that's when Toby Ball that's when Toby Ball gets into his deep dive with his guests. The next podcast is going to be on the book The Sullivanians. Toby, tell us a little bit about that book and that panel.
So the Sullivanians is about a sort of a cult that formed in New York City. It was largely around people who were in psychoanalysis, but in sort of this strange way, and it got weirder and weirder and weirder, and then it just became like sort of a full-on cult. So it'll be definitely an interesting discussion. It's sort of we're trying to arrange we're trying to arrange a good date or whatever, but there'll be at least 2 of the following people: Sarah Krasenstein, Janet Varney, and Julia Lowry Henderson.
All right.
Well, if that changes, you better let me know. I've got to
I
do
probably need to tell you right now.
He has to
but-
do producer things.
Yeah,
I have to
I
do
know.
all of this all over again.
And we're doing it on Riverside this time, so I don't have to like pretend for a while and then switch it all to Zoom.
Yeah, there you go. It should hopefully it goes better. And hopefully it goes better.
Finally, yeah. We won't have the tech difficulties section. All right, Kevin, before we end the business section, I have a very important question for you.
Yes.
Do we have any Patreon patron saints of the week this week?
Our Patreon patron saints are Melissa Mack. Hold on. Let me get this going. Come on now. Melissa Mack and Amber Stowe.
Wow.
Bless you.
Bless you, Melissa. Bless you, Amber. I'm so excited to induct you into the Hall of Fame of Patreon patron saints of this week that have been announced during live shows.
Mhm.
Very exclusive, tiny group of people. you are among them. If you're interested in being qualified to be a saint, all you got to do is join our Patreon. That's all you got to do. Kevin might pick your name randomly. It's random, right?
It's random. Yeah.
It's random insofar as that you look at them and you pick one.
Yes.
All right, Kevin, does thus end our business section?
Thus ends the business section.
I'm going to go ahead and fade that music out right now.
You mean I'm gonna fade it out?
You're gonna say hello. Hello.
Obligatory cat appearance.
Mm.
All right, back to the podcast. So, so Toby, before the break, you were mentioning that you were interested in talking a little bit about the character development in the series. What did you want to say about that?
Well, I just, when we talked about season 1, and it was like, here are 3 lonely people who kind of find each other's company through podcasting and solving a murder and stuff. And you kind of seen that as it's sort of moved along. And I thought, one of the things about this season was really about, Steve Martin's character becoming more isolated since his former girlfriend / murderer is in jail, although she escapes. They don't really hang out too much. And then there's, Martin Short's getting married. And then Saz is killed. So it's like the people other than Mabel, who he's closest to, are all moving further away from him or have just disappeared altogether. And you see a little bit of it where he's sort of, I don't know if really reconciling with his sister, but sort of making contact with her again. So I thought that was sort of one of the things that was going on. And then Mabel, I don't know what her deal is, but she has no friends her age.
Yeah.
And she also
dresses like she has no friends her age.
right, and her name's Mabel, so she sounds like she's from their generation anyway. But yeah, I mean it's strange because she's like the one who doesn't really seem to have a life outside of what they're actually doing
Yeah.
at any given time. And she kind of moves into
She has that
she's
big
gonna
bed.
squat at that apartment.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of, she doesn't have any stuff, where she used to have tons and tons of stuff when she lived in that one apartment. Now she's got nothing.
Yeah.
And so it was just, I guess it's not really a criticism, but I think it was just kind of an interesting choice all around, is that her sort of life outside of the 3 of them like barely exists. And really the only stuff you kind of see her getting is other people kind of projecting like what they think Mabel is on her, and then they're trying to engage with that. And like you can see like Eva Longoria like doesn't really have a whole good idea of what to do. And then the studio exec is always like, well, that's so Mabel. And it's like totally not Mabel if you've been watching the show, but she just doesn't have a handle on her.
Yeah. It is interesting, Laura. Toby mentioned this, but Steve Martin reconnects. I'm calling him Steve Martin. I can't help it. Reconnects with his Charles. Reconnects with his sister. We sort of understand why they're not connected when we go out to Long Island. Real town of Long Island, by the way, that they went out to looks just like the one that they visited, with boats in the driveway and everything. But they really sort of, to me, nailed like the parody of Long Island in a really great way. But we do meet this sister, this like long lost missing sister, played, of course, by
Melissa McCarthy.
So what did you think of that whole sequence, Laura?
That was one of the more fun episodes for me of this season. I felt like the decor in her house, it's like the outside, you see it, you're like, oh, this, and then you see the inside, you're like, oh my gosh, this is like 1970s shag carpet. There's this giant couch. Oliver's looking for the bar, and she's like, right this way. Let's put some Crystal Light and some vodka and shake it up. And I'm like, oh my God, this is just amazing. All the dolls, super fucking creepy. It's just like so
They
many
looked like a cross between Meryl Streep and Taylor Swift.
Yes, there was a Taylor Swift doll. Remember?
Was it?
Yeah.
Wearing the Travis Kelce jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
They really were going for a look, and they nailed it.
They were going for a look, right down to when they're like hanging out in the boat in the driveway. But then the other characters start showing up there when they think they're in their safe house in Long Island. And then that gets even more entertaining, because I think that's the scene where we have like the director, Molly Shannon's character gets like hammered. And then we have the big fight scene where like Meryl Streep shows up and they're like throwing down, and again, like that couch is like a central character in that whole part of this series. I just thought it was just like, okay, if we're gonna have like the Hollywood scenes were like, whatever, we're in a different sort of setting. This was so just classically funny and quirky and bizarre, and just so many things, like so many stereotypes were leaned into. I really enjoyed that episode.
To me, there were three really strong standout episodes this season. And every season, it seems that there's one that's like, like the standout one. The three in this were the Long Island one, the camera one, which I know Kevin wants to talk about a little bit, which was incredible, just absolutely incredible. And I loved the stunt man bar episode, only because it just like had so much opportunity to just do so many things, not just because it brought Paul Rudd back, but because they had Steve Martin lying on a table and they threw a wake for him and they smashed stuff on his head, and like just like in dodgeball, it is funny to watch people get hit by things. So Kevin, that one big format breaking episode though has to do with the brother sisters and the history of their life, and we see almost the whole episode, if not the whole episode, through the lenses of their cameras. That was incredible.
And yes, right. And they
So weird.
different surveillance cameras. Yeah.
What'd you think about that episode?
Well, I mean, I really liked it. I mean, certainly, I think you pointed out, like each season, there's always like sort of one episode that is so ingenious. It just breaks format in a wonderful way. So I think Blow Up is the name of that episode, I believe. I don't know if anybody caught it, but all the episodes are also titles of movies like Adaptation and Once Upon a Time in the West, et cetera, except for Escape from Planet Kalanglo or whatever it was. Yeah, I mean, I think probably one of the greatest episodes they had was the one, I don't know if it was season one.
The White Room one?
The White Room, but that's season 2, I believe. But season 1 was where it was from the perspective is Teddy,
the deaf kid,
the deaf character.
Yeah,
where it was just all like that was really great. There were, like I said, a couple of episodes. I will say that I don't know if this is a critique, but it took me really to sort of like the 5th episode to see how these things were sort of coming together, because the storylines of like the Westies, we had like a Westies episode, and then we didn't like really come
like the
back to them.
tailies.
Yeah, they're like the tailies, and then the stuntmen, and then we don't really like see them. And once later, like all these things start to come together, I was like, oh, okay, now I see it. I was a little afraid like they were just going to be extraneous one-offs, and like, why did we go down that alley? And why the only one that really was sort of set aside and didn't really drive much of the narrative was the trip to Long Island, because you could cut that out, and that really wouldn't have like changed the mystery, but in and of itself, it was very entertaining. So I'm glad it stayed in.
I'm glad it stayed in too, because it just, I think anytime you mix something up and you have a different setting and put characters in the mix, but like it was just so beautifully done in so many ways. And at the end, I think it was something kind of moving about Charles and his sister's relationship. I mean, they're not a fit.
I mean, other than the fight, which was pretty amazing in that episode. The one thing that I really loved was how they called back to these plot holes.
Yes.
Right? Where they're like, oh, well, we think we figured this out. And it's like, who poisoned the dog? Right. And we talked about this after our review of season 1. It was like, I don't think it was overlooked. I think it was intentionally left as a plot hole, and they're going to come back to it next season. And they haven't yet. But I still believe, they're calling out the plot hole in the plot, and then they don't resolve it this time either.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's bad writing. I think it's really intentional that it kind of like, I'm still holding out hope they're going to bring this together in a very clever way.
To me, that's very podcast, though. You say that the show is not about a podcast. To me, it still is. They had the theme about them making a movie about the podcast, which is very podcast. And Toby, we're podcasters. We read the social media about our show and sometimes respond to it, right, in the show. So to me, there was this very meta thing about them pointing out things that people have said about the show on the show, because that's been a critique of the show, right?
You're gonna have to remind me. I don't recall when did that happen?
Well, people pointing out plot holes on social media.
The plot. I thought you were talking about responding in social media. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I was sort of referencing what Kevin was talking about, which is they they sit them down, the actors do, and they're like, well, we went over, we took a close look at your podcast, and here's all these plot holes, and this will point towards something. And yeah, I just thought that was, it's a nice little kind of meta moment, I guess. Is sort of a tongue-in-cheek critique of their earlier seasons. And yeah, I mean, at least the way these guys are making a podcast, like, it's one of the, I am always sort of, my mind is a little blown by how people think or portray how podcasts are actually made, because there's not going to be anything in any of these shows that are going to be reflective of what Kevin's going to do starting in about an hour. The next like 5 hours of getting this together for tomorrow, and like the actual like stuff that goes into making a podcast. But the way they seem to make a podcast is like at that time, just like saying stuff into their phones, and then somebody's gonna get to and throw it together. So of course, if you're doing it like that,
That's
you're
how
gonna
I
say
make
all
my
kinds of stuff
podcast.
that doesn't end up like panning out, like Serial, like the first Serial, where it's like you're doing this like driving to Best Buy, and then it turns out, well, actually that wasn't even a thing. Like you don't even have to worry about that. That was nothing. So anyway, that's a lot of words saying not very much, but I thought that was, when that happened, I thought that was like kind of clever.
There was a moment, Toby, that I really loved, which was the Mabel's realization that she is a podcast producer.
Right.
It was kind of
Yeah.
sad. Here, let's have a watch.
Wait, what do I do?
You do this.
Well, what is this exactly?
God only knows.
Well, we have a podcast, so you are a podsmith, a crime fluencer.
How about podcast producer?
I'm a podcast producer. I'm a podcast producer.
No, but it's more like, I'm a podcast producer.
Yeah, you don't have to overdo it. You could just say, oh, I'm a podcast producer.
I'm a podcast producer. But why is that so scary to say out loud?
Maybe it's because you're a producer on a podcast about a crime that has 40,000 fucking suspects.
I love that. I love that detective.
I love her too. Oscar winner, right?
Yeah.
I also love the whole thing about being a podcast producer. Laura, do you know that there's this whole thing about men who are podcast producers not putting that on their dating bios because it's such an embarrassing profession and it was turning
What?
women off? Yes.
Oh no.
Women were not responding to the hinges or whatever. when
I
someone said
tried.
they were
I
Wow.
tried.
So there was a
but
whole
I didn't
article
see
about it.
any podcast. I would have responded when I was in
Yeah.
that world
There's
if
a
there
whole
was a
article about
podcast producer.
how they changed their like profession to like multimedia maker and stuff like that to not have the words podcast producer. Laura, there are a couple funny gimmicks in the show.
What multimedia? It's just audio.
I know.
Yeah.
Listen, it's video now.
Audio engineering.
Exactly. So, we have all these funny little gimmicks in the show. Obviously, we have Mr. Christmas Swole, who is our but then we also have Eva Longoria's multi-tool, which as a callback. What do you think about that?
I want one of Eva. I would like to have one of those multi-tools from Eva Longoria, especially like at the end when it's like they're trying to figure out how to use it. I'm like, oh my God, these are like some of the fancy new age lady products that are on the market. But
A
this
nail
can
gun
kill
that doubles
With
as
a
a
nail gun.
vibrator. That just sounds. That is so dangerous.
But when like when they're like trying to shoot and it like shoots somebody off, it's like that's fantastic. But I like how it comes out all the time. Like, oh, what's that? Nail gun? And yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Shoot
What could
somebody off.
possibly go wrong if you had a nail gun and a vibrator that were combined into one?
What could possibly go right is my question.
You could nail it shut.
It's like a chastity belt
Yeah.
or something.
This is going off the rails. Laura, but there are like many side characters in the show.
Yes.
What do you think about the fact that like this cast just seems to be expanding and they give side characters shit to do?
I love the side characters like Howard this season. He's got a pig at one point. He's going to make a podcast about animals jobs. I'm like, I will join your podcast with you. We can go on. I'm a cat detective. We can partner up. We've got the angry lady in the elevator. Everywhere you're like, and then you've got all of the people on the other side of the building. And like, you've got the guy in the Christmas sweater. You've got the guy with the eye patch. You've got,
Richard
all
Bryan,
sorts
yes.
of people doing interesting things. You've got Eva Longoria's bed.
Yep.
I mean, that
Who
was a
has Eva
character.
Longoria's bed?
Eva Longoria's bed. I mean, it just goes on and on.
Yeah. So Toby, is there anybody that you have like a dream cast for the show that you really wish was on the show at some point?
Well, Terry Garr died yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I think she would have been awesome to have been on the show, although I think she might have had health problems from the time the show started, but
Yeah,
she
many
was
years
such
she had,
a
I think, muscular or MS, right?
I
Yeah.
think
oh,
MS.
did she? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't I mean, I hadn't she was like, I mean, I think this might sort of be like the age gap between, but like when I was in high school in the beginning of college, uh when there wasn't anything on TV late at night, so you'd watch David Letterman, and
Mhm.
she was consistently like the best
Yep.
guest who was there on there all the time. Like she and David Letterman had a hilarious like relationship, sort of flirty, and she was not afraid of like giving it back to him and stuff. And she's been in just so many great things like Young Frankenstein and et cetera, et cetera,
Close
and
Encounters.
actually in Star Trek, which
Yep.
is kind of weird. Anyway,
Hmm.
so I just made that little note because she seemed like another sort of celebrity who was sort of in that sort of realm of niceness and talent that
Yeah.
seems to be attracted to this show.
Yeah. I was disappointed we had Eugene Levy, but not Catherine O'Hara. I'd love to see her on the
Yeah.
show.
Mhm.
And I do want to do a callback. We talked about Divine Joy Randolph as Detective Donna Williams.
Mhm.
Yeah, she's
Anyone who has
hilarious.
not seen The Holdovers should watch that
Yes.
film
Oh, that
for
was
her performance.
amazing.
She is
Yeah.
incredible in that movie and 100% deserved that Oscar. And it was funny. We were watching it recently and I'd forgotten that she won the Oscar for it. And I was
Mhm.
watching it and I was like, she should have won an Oscar for this. And it was like, oh, she did.
She did win an Oscar.
Absolutely
She
deserved.
had a great acceptance speech. too, yeah.
Absolutely well deserved. All right, let's do what we do. Let's let our listeners know, should they check out Only Murders in the Building Season 4? Here we are with our review. Laura Bricker, what do you think? Thumbs up or thumbs down for Only Murders in the Building Season 4?
This is thumbs up. Shocker. This is one of those shows that is always so fun when it comes on and there's a new season, because even friends of mine that don't watch like traditional true crime or crime shows that we watch are watching this. This is one of those shows you can talk to people about, but it's also like kind of going back into this environment in the Arconia where it's like a cozy mystery. We know I love a cozy mystery. You've got quirky characters. I don't really even pay too much attention. I think Toby was the one who said this, or maybe Kevin. I don't really pay too much attention to the whole mystery plot because it's all going to work out in the end. I'm just sort of along for the ride. I'm along. I'm like Steve Martin, Martin Short, Selena Gomez. There's so many scenes in this that you're just like, I would like to hang out there. I would like to live there. I would like to walk a pig. I mean, what else?
It's a cozy
Seriously.
place, man. It's a cozy place.
Yeah.
It's a cozy place. So big thumbs up for this. I'm sad it's over this season, although the next season, which has been teased, looks like it's going to be pretty interesting. So I'm sure we'll be back here.
What do you think, Toby Ball? Thumbs up or thumbs down for this season of Only Murders in the Building?
Well, Rebecca Lavoie. I mean, I obviously it's a thumbs up. I mean, I feel like this is almost like comfort food. It's like you kind of know what you're getting into. Um, you like all the characters are all, um, I just kind of feel like they feel fleshed out, right? And not in a way that gets
Sure.
annoying after a while. It's like they seem like real people. Um, as I've said 10 zillion times, Steve Martin's probably my favorite, like, entertainer,
Famous person?
performer, whatever, of all time, and it's always great to see him. One of the few disappointments I had was that, like, he often gets like sort of a set piece where he does something that he's really good at that almost nobody else is good at. And he didn't really have that in this one. There's like a little bit where he's doing a little physical comedy that Kevin talked about in the main, but it wasn't like when he was doing the how many whatever with the triplets and
Yes.
Which of the Pickwick
Oh my God.
Pickwick
did it?
Or the
Yeah.
baby, or this scene at the
the
season
baby
one, the
carriage and stuff, like
The baby carriage.
just being able to show off like
Yeah.
his just talents in different places, like even just pick up a banjo.
Mhm.
But so anyway, yeah, it's a thumbs up. This is just a very dependable franchise. It's sort of low stress watch. And we were talking earlier about do you have a what was it, an escape plan or a self-care plan. Like I think you could
Mhm.
do worse than like chilling out with this for a few hours.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kevin Flynn.
Yeah, I'm a thumbs up. This just continues to thrill me. I'm glad well, I don't know if this is a spoiler at all, but I was never mind. I'm not going to talk about um Once Upon a Time in the West. Again, I thought it was going to be a whole dream season, and like, but no, it wasn't that. It's
Huh.
this is such a really smart show, um, and the thing that we don't really talk about in the performances, they're very funny, but there's such a sense of vulnerability in the characters that one probably would not have otherwise expected if you said it's going to be Martin Short and it's going to be Steve Martin and it's going to be the girl from Wizards of Waverly Place, and I can't remember her name,
The
like
billionaire with the
the
makeup
billionaire.
line.
Yeah, these guys are just so fantastic. What they do, the writing is great, and they do what they need to do, right? And I'm glad we get to talk about this more in the after show, but Steve Martin is incredible. Selena Gomez, she plays small so well that sometimes she's got like these really super sarcastic cutting lines and she's not even opening her mouth, right? There's just like this vicious mumble that is just like so they've just all fleshed out such great characters. And I got to say, um even though the mystery is different, and it continues to evolve, and no, I didn't guess it, and I don't really need to. I just really like watching this. I think they're all great, and I'm glad that there's a season 5, and I wish there could be 10 more, but I know that there won't be. But you know I can't wait till we're all back here talking about season 5 in 2025.
Yeah, this is a huge thumbs up for me. I actually enjoyed this season more than I enjoyed season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like season 1 was like perfect. Season 3 was great because we had the musical stuff. This season I absolutely loved. I loved this sort of the fact that there were 3 like format breaky standout episodes. I love, and I don't think this is enough of a spoiler for me to not say it. I love they figured out a way to get Mabel back in the building. Like I'm really
Mhm.
happy about that because when she was looking for apartment elsewhere last season, I was really depressed about that. I'm like, you got to figure out a way to get her into the
Mhm.
Arconia because she belongs there. She absolutely belongs there. They brought in a huge cast for this season, a huge cast, considering that last season was about a play and there were like tons of people. This season they had the Westies, which are like the tailies on Lost. They had, we went out to Long Island. We met some people. We met so many new people, and you would think that that would send a show a little bit astray, and you'd be like, okay, this is getting gimmicky. This is getting to be a lot. They somehow still managed to keep it incredibly intimate. That has a lot to do with like the set design, which I would love to talk about in the after show. It has a lot to do with the production design, the art direction, the lighting, the sort of like freshness but coziness of it. They really, really have kept a coherent product, for lack of a better word, together in this, and it's just one that I would return to again and again. There are very few shows I watch on TV, and I'm not tempted to pick up my phone and look at it when I'm watching one of them. This is one of them. So yeah, huge thumbs up for me for Only Murders in the Building season 4. All right, Laura, that's going to do it for us. But before we go, do we have a cat of the week this week?
We do. And it's living.
Oh,
We do.
Oh my goodness. And I think we have a picture of it too.
I think we have a picture of it too.
I think we have several pictures of it. Dun, dun, dun.
All right, tell us about this cat.
Here it is. So this is a cat in France. I was walking into my office the other day when I saw one of my Exeter people, Christy Utter, and she is an avid listener of ours. And she was like, I'm a little bit behind because I was in France. And so I'm a few episodes back on Crime Writers On. And then she was like, but when we were in France, there was a hotel cat. So they were on the first floor of the hotel. And this cat just came like wandering in the middle of the night and hung out with them and ended up sleeping on their bed. And she was like, a lot of people wouldn't want a cat that they didn't know sleeping on their bed in a foreign country. She was all for it. I'm like, I would be all for it. So I was very excited to hear about this cat that just kind of wandered in and hung out and slept with them at like 3 a.m.
Amazing. She should go to Istanbul, which
It's like
apparently
a
is
Ripley
full of
cat.
cats.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
It's a really
exactly. It's a
cool
Ripley
looking cat, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a beautiful cat.
Yeah.
All right, Laura Bricker, of course, folks can email us if they want to send us their pets of the week or any kind of pet to be cat of the week. But if they want to find you on social media, how can they find you there?
You can find me at Laura Bricker on Twitter and Instagram.
What about you, Toby Ball? How can you be found?
I'm at TobyBallNH on TikTok and Twitter, and I'm at TobyBall603 on the Instagram.
What about you, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm at Kevin P. Flynn.
And if you want to follow me everywhere, you can follow me at Reb Lavoie. Follow the show everywhere at Crime Writers On. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on all the socials. But I really encourage you to join our incredible community and our official Crime Writers On Facebook discussion group. Some of the best people I've ever met belong to that group. Get episodes early and ad-free at patreon.com/Partners in Crime Media. You get the Readathon. You get the CWO After Show, Married with Podcast, Laura Bricker's Leave It to Bricker podcast, and Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcasts. Our theme song was composed and performed by Tyler Gibbons. Our editor is the wonderful Livy Burdett. Executive producer of this show is the amazing Kevin Flynn.
That's me.
This show was recorded in Studio C, the closet in our New Hampshire basement, where we also find it scary to say out loud, I'm a podcast producer. On behalf of all the crime writers, thanks so much for listening. We will catch you later.
Later.
This is the section in the show where I usually
All right.
take a bathroom break.
Laura, okay, so what's gonna happen, everybody, is one, we're gonna stop the live stream and we're gonna resume for our patrons on. Wait, Laura, don't go away,
Oh,
Laura.
she left.
Oh, for fuck's sake! What Laura's gonna do is she's gonna fix her microphone because she moved it and she unplugged her microphone, and I appear to be the only person that knows that.
I heard it.
You heard it. Okay. So Laura's gonna go take a tinkle. We're gonna say goodbye. So thank you everybody who's been watching on YouTube and on Facebook, and everybody who's been with us on Riverside, all of our patrons. Don't go anywhere. We're gonna shut down this this live feed, reconfigure it, and join you hopefully in about 1 minute. Okay.
Except for Laura.
Except for Laura, whatever.
Who won't be here.
She won't be here. Okay.
Welcome
So do
to
I
our
have
life.
to leave too?
No, you stay right where you
stay
are,
right where you are.
Toby.
All right.
All right.
All right.
That was a
Thanks
good
everybody
show.
for this. It was great.
right.
Yeah.
Thanks so
Thanks
much.
so much. We'll catch you next time. All right. Thanks for tuning in.
So now you gotta unhook
I gotta
those things.
I gotta switch you